Okay, hello and welcome to this presentation regarding George Gordon Lord Byron. This is a picture of Lord Byron, and right from the start you can notice he does not really look or dress like an Englishman in this picture. In fact, he is dressed in a rather exotic way. We'll find out why in a minute. So he was born in Dover in Kent in 1788. The dates here are just a bit important because as we study the Romantic poets of the second generation, you will see that their dates of life and deaths are relative to one another. They're important. He was of noble origin. He descended from two aristocratic families, a baron, so quite noble origins. He studied at Trinity College in Cambridge, where he began to write. He wasn't appreciated immediately. He got some criticism for his poems he published in 1807. They were attacked in the pages of the Edinburgh Review, to which he responded in English Bards and Scotch Reviewers with a ton of satire, and this revealed his ability for satire. In 1809, he set out on his grand tour of Spain, Portugal, Malta, Albania, Greece, and the Middle East. The grand tour was a typical thing that young members of noble families did at that time. It was a cultural thing, especially for members of English families, to travel the continent and discover and see and touch and feel culture, especially Italy. But not only that, he went all the way to the Middle East, which connects to the way he was dressed in that first picture, of course. He returned to England in 1812 and published the first two cantos of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Who is a child? A child with that kind of spelling there, Childe, is the young member of, he's a young prince, the young member, the young heir or descendant of an aristocratic family. With his poetry, he became a literary and social celebrity. He became a literary celebrity with his poems. He became a social celebrity with his personality. One thing I can tell you now about Byron is that he was born with a deformed foot. I think his right foot was not straight, and so he could not walk well. But despite this, he insisted on trying all sorts of sports, and he was proficient in swimming, for example, and other sports. He refused to allow a physical disability to limit him. He refused a disability to be a limitation. And this kind of attitude, very competitive, made him very popular. In 1815, he married Annabella Millibank, another member of aristocracy. His marriage collapsed a year later because of his incestuous relationship with his half-sister, Augusta Leigh. This was a huge scandal, and Annabella Millibank was furious. She led the press against him. It was a disaster. So in 1816, he simply decided to leave England, never to come back. He never returned to England. He lived in Geneva for some time, and he became a friend. He met the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. Shelley is the second poet of the group of second generation English poets. So we'll study him later. Then Byron moved to Venice and he began his masterpiece, the mock epic Don Juan. Don Juan, if you don't know who Don Juan is, I will say his name in Italian, Don Giovanni. Don Juan is the quintessential lover man. He is the man who has a collection of ladies. In 1819, he moved to Milan, where he became involved in the patriotic plots against Austrian rule. He participated actively in rebellions and fights. He was fighting for ideals. He committed himself to the Greek struggle of independence from Turkey, and that's where he died. He was training troops, Greek troops, so that they could defend themselves. And that was where he died, in the town of Missolonghi. He was struck by fever. And that's where his heart is buried, in Greece. The rest of his body you can find in England. Byron here is wearing an Albanian dress. Okay, and this painting is hung in Greece, in the residence of the British ambassador in Athens. Some works by Byron. Here's a list right here. Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, the Giaour, the Corsair and Lara. They're all interesting. A series of verse narratives, narrative poems. Manfred, which is a tragedy, and Don Juan, which is a satire. The Byronic hero. This is very important, and in the post on Edmodo, I will ask you a question. So pay attention here, because the key to the answer is in these words. The Byronic hero, a moody, restless and mysterious romantic rebel. A Byronic hero is a rebel. To help you out a bit, Superman is not a rebel. He is not moody. He is not restless. Superman is a hero, but not a Byronic hero. The Byronic hero hides some sin or some secret in his past. He has a dark, dark past. And he is characterized by a proud individualism. He has a strong sense of self. And he refuses the conventional moral rules of society. And he is an outsider. He is not part of society. He is isolated, but at the same time, he is very attractive. He is a mysterious person, and so he is very attractive. Noble birth is usually one of the characteristics of the Byronic hero, but not of noble manners. He will be wild and rough. His looks are hard but handsome, good-looking but not beautiful. He has a great sensibility to nature and beauty. He has a strong connection with beauty. He is bored with the excesses of the world. He refuses the commodities of nobility. And of course, he refuses the love of women who just cannot resist this dark and mysterious figure. His individualism is strongly connected to Byron's individualism, and this is where you see some connections already between Byron and his hero. So this is the point where I can say that Byron's idea of the poet was very autobiographical, let us say. And you will see when we look at Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, the poet, the romantic poet, his job, his mission is not only that of writing poetry. A romantic poet must also live a romantic life. He must represent the object of his poetry. So Byron wanted to live like a romantic hero, an outcast, not living in England anymore, some dark sin or secret in the past, his incestuous relationship, noble origins, he is a baron, and so on. Byron firmly believed in individual liberty. He hated any sort of constraint. He didn't like social constraints. He wished to be himself without compromises. He denounced the evils of society by using satire. Satire is rough, is not a very gentle way of speaking. His mood and choice of themes were romantic. He lived like a romantic character, especially like a romantic hero. And here is Childe Harold. Childe is a young noble awaiting knighthood just before he is admitted into nobility. The poem is made up of 4 cantos. It deals with young Harold's travels and introduces exotic settings. You will see which ones in a minute. And contains descriptions of nature, which is quite important in romantic poets, as you know. The first 2 cantos are set in Spain, Portugal, Albania, and Greece. Now, at this point, you will see that these settings are very similar to Byron's own grand tour. In fact, it is, again, an autobiographical work. Not much in the sense that the poet writes a poem that tells the stories of the adventures of the poet. But the poem tells romantic stories of a romantic character which the poet, Byron, represented in real life. Okay? It is an autobiographical poem, but sort of turned around in the other way. It isn't the poem that reflects the life of the poet, but the poet who lived like a romantic character inside a poem. It's upside down. It takes a bit to understand. Okay, the 3rd canto is set in Central Europe, and the 4th canto is set in Italy, and that is where we find Lord Byron towards the end. He lived in Italy on the west coast near Genoa. The wildest and most exotic natural landscapes reflect the poet's mood and feelings. This is the view of nature for Byron, and our last slide. Okay, so there is some kind of connection between the poet, and so the hero inside the poem, and the nature around him. The poet sets himself inside a nature which reflects the emotions and feelings of the poet. Okay, that is our final slide. If you have any questions, you can use the comments in the post on Edmodo to ask. I will be very happy to answer. But first, you must read the post again and answer the question in the post. Have a great day. Bye-bye.